Section 6.4, traits, genes, and alleles. For this section, we're going to copy the notes on notebook paper, draw examples when needed, copy down examples, so you'll have complete notes to study from for the quiz. So a gene is a specific region on DNA that codes for a particular protein. Okay, so a specific region of DNA that codes for a particular protein. Okay, the location of the locus of a gene is a gene-specific location on a chromosome, like its address, as you can see here for this pair of homologous chromosomes. The locus for this gene is in the same spot on each chromosome. Same thing with these guys. This locus is in the same spot for each chromosome. Alleles are any of the alternative forms of a gene. For example, this gene here codes for flower color in this particular species. Okay, on this side, it's the allele is for purple flowers, and on this side, the allele is for white flowers. So same gene, same location, but just a different version of the gene. One being purple flowers, one being white. A dominant allele is an allele that's always expressed, even when there's two different alleles in the organism's genotype. So you could have one dominant, one recessive allele. It would still show the dominant phenotype or the dominant trait. Okay, dominant alleles are always expressed with a capital letter. Okay, recessive alleles are alleles that are not expressed unless two copies of this recessive allele are present in the organism's genotype. Recessive alleles are given a lowercase letter, the same letter as the dominant version of that same trait. So here we've got these flying pigs with like a brownish fur color. Both the homozygous dominant, big B little b, and big B little b, both give the dominant phenotype of brown fur. The white one, on the other hand, is only expressed when you're getting both lowercase b's or both recessive alleles from mom and dad. Okay, so dominant allele is expressed even if it is paired with recessive allele. Recessive allele is only expressed when it is paired with another recessive allele. Okay, one dominant, one recessive, one dominant, or both dominant, brown color. Recessive, gray color. What determines if an allele is dominant or not depends on if a protein is made or not made. Now the thing is, genes carry information to make specific proteins. So, for example, with this flower color, in order for this flower to express the color of red, it has to have a protein made that puts this red color, red pigment, into the flower. Okay, so uppercase P would code for pigment protein in a flower to be made. A lowercase p would code for no pigment protein to be made. So in that case, since the P is expressed as this red flower, P, uppercase P, or red, would be dominant to white, which would be no protein being made, no pigment being made, therefore making it a white flower. There are a bunch of other factors that contribute to one allele being dominant over another. They're not always related to it being better than the other or being more common, darker colors, bigger, etc. Homozygous. Characteristic of having two of the same type alleles. Okay, two alleles are the same, one you got from mom, one from dad, and they're both the same. Heterozygous would be two different alleles, one being inherited from mom, one from dad, and they're different. So these homozygous alleles, they both are wrinkled. Okay, heterozygous, one is wrinkled and one is round. One of these came from mom, one came from dad. Same thing here, one came from mom, one came from dad. Okay, just like this. This is homozygous dominant. This is homozygous recessive, and this is heterozygous. Okay, a genome is all of an organism's genetic material. Okay, so this is actually a picture of the Human Genome Map. The Human Genome Project was a project set up whose goal was to map, sequence, and identify all the genes in the human genome. So all the genes that we would possess as human beings and all of our chromosomes would be mapped out in this Human Genome Map. But remember, the genome is all of an organism's genetic material. A genotype is a collection of all of an organism's genetic information that codes for traits, meaning all the alleles that organism contains. The phenotype is all of an organism's physical characteristics or physical traits, which means the results of the proteins coded for by those alleles. Okay, again, we have a genotype over here, which is homozygous dominant, giving us the dominant flower color purple. Okay, both of these guys are heterozygous, right? Uppercase P, lowercase p, but they still both give the purple flower because that has the dominant allele. And this, lowercase p, is homozygous recessive, giving us a white flower, which does not show the trait of flower color. The eye color here, light colored eyes or blue eyes, are recessive to the dominant trait of darker eyes or brown eyes. So whether or not you were, in this case, heterozygous for eye color, meaning big B, little b, you would be brown, or homozygous dominant, you'd still be brown. The only way to get blue eyes is to have this recessive allele from both parents, giving you lighter colored eyes. Two different genotypes can produce the same dominant phenotype. In pea pods, right, the smooth pod like this is dominant, so given by an uppercase S. The constricted pod, or these guys, as you can see, they're kind of looks like shrink wrapped around the peas, are recessive, so that would be a lowercase s. Now, either homozygous dominant, capital S, or heterozygous, capital S, little s, would both give us this dominant phenotype of smooth pea pods. Only the homozygous recessive, lowercase s, would give these guys, or these constricted pods, because they are the recessive phenotype. Recessive only has one genotype, homozygous recessive, that would allow it to be expressed. Or the dominant can be either of homozygous dominant or heterozygous to be expressed. So for this, the round phenotype is dominant, capital R would be dominant, okay? The wrinkled phenotype would be recessive, lowercase r being recessive. So if a plant is a genotype of RR, meaning it's homozygous dominant, will the phenotype be round or wrinkled? Well, since it has the dominant trait, in this case homozygous dominant, it would be round. This guy, plant is a genotype of big R, little r, meaning it's heterozygous, so it has one dominant, one recessive allele. The dominant allele will get expressed, and it will still be round. If a plant is a genotype of RR, meaning lowercase r, or homozygous recessive, will it be round or wrinkled? In this case, it'll be wrinkled. It will take on that recessive trait of wrinkled. Okay, another example. Tall, dominant, because it's uppercase T. Short, recessive, because it's a lowercase t. If a plant has a tall phenotype, what are the two possible genotypes. And again, what I'm asking here is what are the two possible allele combinations that could give you tall flowers? Now remember, if the dominant trait is expressed, it could be either homozygous dominant or heterozygous. Both of these would give you a tall plant. If a plant has a short phenotype, meaning it has the recessive phenotype being expressed, it has to be homozygous recessive or lowercase t, lowercase t. Okay, most traits are not either or traits. Now, Mendel used traits in his studies that were either tall or short, or purple or white, or constricted or inflated. So his were either or traits. Most are different. Okay, remember Mendel used these pea plants. Okay, traits can be affected by other factors as well: nutrients, sunlight, water availability, or weather. All these things can contribute to how certain traits get expressed. Okay, get out a new sheet of notebook paper, put your name and period in the upper right corner. In the left margin, number down the paper numbers 1 through 25. We're going to go through some questions on the next couple of pages or next couple of slides, and you're going to answer these on this clean sheet of paper. Once you're done, you're going to scan the notes that we just took, okay, that you took previously from this section, and the answer to the questions that we're going to go through. You're going to submit those both to Blackboard. Okay, so we're going to do a couple of examples using the characteristics in this table to answer these questions. Okay, using information from SpongeBob's traits to write whether this is a homozygous recessive, homozygous dominant, or heterozygous genotype, then indicate the phenotype, physical appearance for each item. Okay, so this, little r. Okay, they're both lowercase, they're both the same letter, so they'd be homozygous recessive. R deals with the eye shape, so the oval eye shape is recessive, so that'd be expressed. And this one, okay, big L, big L. So since it's both uppercase letters, it would be homozygous dominant. Okay, L deals with nose style, so this would give us a long nose. Okay, so do the rest of these guys on that sheet of paper you made, numbered 1 through 25. Do 2 through 8 there. Move on to the next page. Okay, for these examples, we're going to write the genotype or genotypes for each trait shown below. A yellow body. So we look at body color. Yellow is dominant to blue. So if it was yellow, it could either be homozygous dominant or heterozygous, because both of those, since they both have at least one of the dominant alleles, would be expressed with a yellow body. Stubby nose, we look at the nose style. Stubby is recessive. So the only way a recessive phenotype will get expressed is if it is homozygous recessive, or little l, little l. Okay, continue with 10 through 15 on the paper you numbered 1 through 25. Do those, be careful with your answers, and move on to the next slide. Okay, this one, it says determine the genotypes for each using the information at the top of the page. So this one, the example is heterozygous for round eyes. Well, round eyes are dominant to oval eyes, but since it says that it's heterozygous, that would have to be a big R, little r. 17, homozygous for long nose. We look here, long nose is dominant. Since it's homozygous, that would have to be big L, big L. Again, go through the rest of these, 18 through 25. You're going to fill them out in that sheet of paper, numbered 1 through 25. Write these out. Make sure you are being accurate in your answers, and that'll finish it. Remember, scan those as well as the notes and submit them to Blackboard.